Jump off that exhausting hamster wheel and into balanced living with Dr. Marissa.
Promise you joy in the mystery.
Dr. Marissa, also known as the Asian Oprah. Her mission, to be a beneficial presence on the planet. Her purpose, to be your personal advocate to live, laugh, love, learn. Her life motto, don't die wondering. Take back your life with Dr. Marissa Pay.
And welcome. You are tuned into my weekly talk radio TV show called Take My Advice. I'm not using it. Get balanced and get happy with Dr. Marissa every Friday. Drive time, prime time at 3 p.m. This is a show about hope and happiness, so there's no gossip, no scandal, and no talking about anything that makes you unhappy. Although we are going to touch on subjects, but we'll get to happy by the end. And you are tuned in to my syndicated CNBC, NBC News Radio channel, KCAA, AM 1050, FM 102.3, FM 106.5, streaming everywhere. I'm on Spotify and Stitcher and Spreaker and iTunes and iHeartRadio because I want to splatter more hope and happiness on you so you can be 88% happy. Now, why 88% happy and not 100%? Because if you're 100% happy, you're dead. I don't want to have dead people walking. Instead, I want you to have the birthright of happiness, which is 8 is a lucky number in Chinese. It's a homonym for good fortune. So double 88 is your birthright into happiness. So if you've missed any of my past 465 shows, this is my 464th consecutive week on the air. Hold on, little applause. True, over 8 years, coming up on 9 years, and it's all on YouTube. So we're migrating over there now. You might be on Facebook right now and watching. We're still there. We're collecting, but if you would go to my YouTube and subscribe there, that way you'll get alerts when shows come on with great guests like I have today with Shay, son, and you can also find out what's going on and how you can be more happy. So if you've missed my shows with Fran Drescher on how to reduce your risk of cancer, to Corey Feldman and how to be positive even after an extremely challenging growing up, then go to my YouTube and you'll find that on the Get Happy playlist. So today I have someone very interesting, and it's really interesting how we actually met because neither one of us knows exactly who set us up, but he's a happiness empowerment coach. He empowers people to shift their emotional energy so they feel wise, aware, bold, and authentically happy. Shay's positive energy shines. Please welcome to my studio, Shay Sun.
Thank you so much, Dr. Marissa.
Welcome to the show. Yeah, you showed up on my Facebook, and you said something, and I had to comment or something, and I thought you had become my friend, and you said no. I showed up on your feed, and vice versa. I start looking further, and it says that you're a happiness coach. And I'm like, wait a minute, that's what I do. And then I saw the Phoenix thing, and my Chinese name. I know you thought I was Swedish, but my Chinese name is Bei Nian Feng, and Nian Feng is Phoenix. So I thought that was another do Twilight.
Well, and then not only that, but you have your peace in, peace out. That was my signature on my emails for those past year. So it was amazing.
Oh, I didn't even know about that.
Yes, I know. I'm saying really? There's so many connections. Yes, wow. Peace in, peace out. I know, it's amazing.
So when I knew I was going to address Asian hate, I knew I wanted to have someone that I could, help me with this whole concept. And what better person to get is a happiness coach, as well as Chinese, as well as male. Looks like a male version of me, but this is not a setup. He's happily married, and so there's no,
No. Actually, I'm just dating right now. I'm dating.
Oh, I'm sorry. I'm
happily dated.
I'm happily divorced. So we're all happy here. It's all good.
I love it.
Okay, so let's go to the topic at hand. And I knew I wanted to spend an entire show addressing this because it is, my niece texted me and she said, "How are you handling all of this?" And it's funny because I'm hashtag positively opinionated and I try to look at the best of everything. And I don't think I'd let it really sink in until today. And then I had a really tough time today knowing I was coming on to publicly speak. And I thought, oh my goodness, am I going to lose all of my my white friends? Because I watched U.S. versus Billie Holiday, and to find out that the bill to abolish lynching has not yet been signed. Still.
Wow.
And so with the hatred that has been shown to Asian Americans, I don't know what the heck is going on. I'm sure that it has something to do with being called the Asian flu, COVID being called the Chinese flu or Kung flu. I'm sure that has something to do with it. People being told to go home on the streets of New York, elderly Asians getting beaten and killed. I mean, it is absolutely not okay. So I'm going to take a breath. So that's the scenario we have today. So how did it hit you when all this happened?
Oh, thank you, Dr. Marissa, so much for having me. And this is a topic I believe the fact that we as Asian in the Asian American community really do need to speak out on. It was interesting because I was talking to some entrepreneur coaching friends, and they were saying the fact that like with the shooting in Atlanta, like how did this happen all of a sudden? And my response was, it's actually been happening in terms of this discrimination. Even when Corona hit China, people were starting to feel it then. And myself, I experienced some of that discrimination as well. I think just the fact that finally with the shootings in Atlanta, I think it just came to light that we really do so many people need to pay attention that are not in this community. So that's what made me feel like I needed to speak out and to finally share my thoughts on the topic.
Right. So let's go back to our own experiences. I live my life out loud, and some of my listeners already know my story. Fox 5 DC, and I'll play a little clip of that later, about how I grew up. How did you grow up finding out you were different?
So I was born in Seoul, Korea, and I actually lived in Taiwan for a little while. I'm ethnically Chinese, and I came to the Bay Area when I was 2 years old. And I remember being in elementary school, and I probably was like in 5th, 6th grade. And I remember being pulled out from my ESL classes. I don't know if you remember those days. I don't know if you had that in Canada.
No.
And yes. And I remember, reading books, singing songs like the Itsy Bitsy Spider and things like that. I remember how much I struggled because Mandarin is my first language. And my parents couldn't help me with that because I'm the oldest. And I remember wanting to be white when I was in elementary school, but it wasn't actually wanting to be white. It was just wanting to not be confused. I felt like I was confused so much of the time in school, either the academic piece or the cultural piece. I just didn't always know what I was supposed to do. So if I was in Africa, I think I would want to be black, or, it didn't really matter. It's just, I wanted to feel like I was a part of the collective. And then that was the part that was challenging for me. Yeah.
And it's almost like bullying and making fun of differences is ingrained in I'm hoping it's not in our DNA, but it's like anything that is different is I use this example when I teach Value University. You walk by a microwave and you smell something you don't usually smell. The most normal reaction is, what is that? They let anybody, do anything these days. And then, that's difference equals yuck. So when I was cornered in stairwells because I did not look, I was one of 3 diverse families in this primarily German town in Canada. And everybody had brown, blue eyes, blonde hair, mostly. And I looked different. I just wanted to look like the girl next door. So I was chased into the stairwell Chinese, Japanese, dirty knees,
Yes.
look at this, right? And
Yes,
just
yes.
constant source. But going back to the microwave, we're not saying in differences that you go walk by and you smell something different. You go, oh, I love that. I want to try some of that. And a lot of times we get screwed up because we think when we say value diversity, we're supposed to like everything and lose our preferences. But that's not it at all. It's just instead of negating differences or making fun of differences or bullying differences, just to say, you know, I'm curious. I wonder what that is in the microwave. That's it.
Yes. Yes.
So
I love it.
That's the hope, you know, as we're dealing with this. You know, I was ready to come in full barrel and just completely, you know, say what I felt about all of this discrimination, which I still don't like. But you cannot fight hate with hate. So even this stop AAPI hate, end racism, war on drugs, war on racism, we're still hitting, we're still hating, which is, I like your, and we're going to get to your little love thing later. But the approach that we are advocating, and I feel safe to say, Shay,
yes, yes,
co-opt you in this, is, yeah, it sucks. Like, it's wrong. The 3,681 hate crimes against Asian Americans is absolutely wrong. It's like wrong, like kids shouldn't be abused, and wrong that what happened to George Floyd. I'm not equating anything to anything. I'm just saying that the principle of, I hate what happened, but it's so important for us to not go that next step of, well, then I hate all Asians, all Black people, all white people.
Yes.
And that's the danger area.
Definitely. I would agree. I often say the fact that the worst thing or the problem with racism is the fact that it's a lack of imagination. It's a lack of imagination because the fact that we close ourselves off. We close ourselves off to the possibility that someone else might have something to teach me and to improve my quality of life and the quality of life for other people. I love the word in Chinese, the word for happiness, kai xin. Kai means open, xin means heart, to have an open heart. And so it's kind of like, you know, we talk about don't judge a book by its cover, but obviously we judge a book by its cover. It's what we do. I love your book cover, by the way. I just love your picture and all of it. I just love it. It's great. And I think this is where when we look at a book cover, are we willing to look at the flap? Are we really willing to look at the backs, you know, the back and read? Can we open it up and at least be curious, like you said? And I think that is what we want to be able to have a culture around, is can we be a little bit fascinated and interested in someone who's different from us?
Yeah. And you know, for those of you who are saying, well, I don't see color, I am gender blind, I'm race blind, we all bleed, we all have red blood, we all, you know, and I'm not a racist, and how dare you call me a racist, and how dare you, I mean, that reaction is hurting us even more. You know, try to say Black Lives Matter and everybody joke, no, it's all lives matter. What about this one? And it's like, can we just, for a California second, take a breath and acknowledge that things are happening to certain groups of people? Just, you know, don't get your undies all in a bundle because we're focusing just for a minute on something that needs to be focused on. And it is a hate crime. How can you not say this is a hate crime? This is the other thing that's hurting us. I just cannot believe that things like COVID, masks, vaccines, anything that is trying to help us is seen now and utilized as a political weapon to separate us even further. And,
I would agree.
And it's so, it's scary.
Yes.
It definitely, you know, I have to be honest, after watching the Billie Holiday and after what's happened to Asian Americans, I'm a Canadian. I was born in Canada. I became American after 9/11, right? I never saw the need to be. I was in the first group right after 9/11. So I have said, proud to be an American, and at least I know I'm free. You know, I'm seriously like, I'm so proud. I sing the anthem. I do a lot of events singing that. I'll tell you this morning, preparing for this show, after watching, you know, the fact that lynching has not passed in the Senate yet in 2020, that what happened to George Floyd, what happened to Asian Americans, I don't know if I can be proud to be an American. I mean, for the first time, and I got super sad. And then it's like, how could people let this happen? How could this happen? And that's not the question. That's really not helpful to start finger pointing and blaming. But I wanted to read something. He's in Costa Rica right now, but my big brother, he, because I was having a problem with white people, you know, because it's the white people that are not passing this bill. It's the white people that went to Capitol Hill, right? And there wasn't, you know, no diverse there. It's the white people who built this country on the plantations, right, with slavery, and the Chinese built the west to the center of the railroad on the blood of their backs, and the Irish from the center to the east. And it's like, do I even value the way this country was birthed? And that's a powerful, horrific, sad, and I may lose a lot of listeners on this one, but I had to say that from my heart, because if you're feeling it, you have to let it out in order to heal. So there's a lot of justifiably ignorant people out there who are saying, no, you're making too much big of a deal out of this. This is not, you know, that big of a deal. Right?
Yeah, so I'm actually getting that as well from some people. And basically what I've said to them is this. I said, when your body, if you stub your toe, you're going to tend to your toe, right? You're going to go and reach down. The rest of the body will try to reach out. And I think that's what's happening right now, is the fact that there are certain communities that are in pain. And it's okay to take some time for that. It's just like when people talk in terms of, like before with the Black Lives Matter movement, right? Like all lives matter. Well, that's true. But just because you have a cause like breast cancer awareness does not mean the fact that you're negating like the mental health crisis. It's like there are different causes out there, and there are certain times where we want to be able to focus. Yeah. And also in terms of whether or not, for me, I don't know if it's necessarily, yes, I think there is historically some populations of those in power, the fact that that is the reason why that we see things. That's why for myself, my ex-wife is actually Caucasian, she's white. My girlfriend from high school, she was actually Black. And the girl that I'm dating right now, she's actually Costa Rican. And so for me, I think that it really is about those who are, because I do embrace diversity. I just think that historically, because there are people that are in power and they want to keep their power regardless of their color. Just for us in the United States, it happens to be the Caucasian population and things like that. But I think part of it is just that whoever's in power wants to stay in power, and sometimes they have a hard time letting go. I think that's true all across the globe, you know, no matter what color the people are.
And if you've just tuned in and you're wondering who I'm talking to today on my show, it is Shay's son. He's a happiness coach, an empowerment coach. We accidentally bumped into each other on Facebook. And I thought, you know, you'd be a good person to have as I address what's going on. Another virus, the anti-Asian virus that has reared its ugly head, that kind of started when Wuhan started over a year ago. All of a sudden, the virus seems to have flown all over the 3,000 how many miles, and infected, you know, Chinese-looking students in the classroom, which is absolutely unacceptable. And so I thought I would focus on this on the show today. Now, I wanted to read what Michael Bernard Beckwith said when I was struggling with this, and I was beginning to go down that all or nothing, right? So it's the people in power, and in our country, it was the old slave plantation owners or whatever, those original families that made a lot of money off of other people. So he said, and I love this because it helped balance me. Most white people are unconsciously racist, entitled, insensitive, privileged, and unaware. Now, not all, right? But the ones that came at you and are coming at me saying you're making too big of a deal out of this, definitely. Or the ones that are saying, I've been using this term, justifiably ignorant. I don't want to hear it. I don't want to acknowledge it. I don't want to know about it. Then there are bigots, white supremacy advocates, and conscious racists that plague the world. Capitol Hill. They all got together. And then there are conscious white folk who embrace diversity and inclusivity. They are not the majority, but the number is increasing due to education and association, and folks taking a good look in the mirror after seeing the ceaseless violence and unfairness that people of color continue to endure. And so this is where I go, yes, sometimes there's a silver lining in tragedy, because I love the fact that these elderly Asians who were hurt and the GoFundMes that went up were way overfunded, which is wonderful. And again, that's, I think, the role of tragedy sometimes, stubbing your toe, maybe cutting open your toe, maybe not just a stub, but a slice open has a purpose to allow us to break open our hearts, kaixing, our ability to show more compassion, more understanding, more awareness. I have a girlfriend who is Caucasian, and she said until George Floyd happened, she didn't get it. She did not understand, and now she does. So we're hoping that this is what happened in Georgia, what happened in the news, and I want to talk about that too. So let's shift to that. Why is it that the major news coverage of the violence against Asian Americans, which the Stop AAPI group, kudos to them, started measuring when COVID started? Why did it take so long for mainstream media to cover all of this extraordinary violation and affrontage? Why?
I think part of it is the fact that we are, as Asian Americans, we're actually very small in percentage in terms of the other minority groups. I think that's one. And also, I think it's an issue of like the squeaky wheel. We as Asians are very typically, broad stroke it, is the fact that we let things go. We're very forgiving about certain things. And because of that, historically, because we've been in times more passive, I think the fact that we don't get the time of day because we don't, I think part of it is our responsibility in terms of not speaking up as much. This time, actually, I think I've noticed the fact that more Asians have been speaking up because of what's happened with COVID, even a year ago. But I think the reason why, like the media hasn't been taking as a serious look is because of the fact that over time, it's like, you can go back to being somewhat invisible. And I don't know if it's a full intentional thing, but it seems like over time that we as Asians need to really step up to the plate and say, you know what are we saying? What are we going to, this is why I'm so glad, Dr. Marissa, I'm so happy the fact that you are wanting to have this conversation, because this is not an easy conversation to have. Because even when you're talking about the Black Lives Matter and what happened with George Floyd, I actually went to my African-American, high school sweetheart, and I realized the fact that I had blind spots as well in relation to white privilege and things like that, or even just, and I think that this is a chance for all of us, Asian and non-Asians, to look into our heart, because even this, among Asians, there's racist tendencies among other Asians, right?
Oh my God, I think we're one of the most racist races. Growing up Chinese, like, look your noses down. There's like a pecking order even among Asians.
Yes, right? Exactly. And I think this is where, this is the reason why I think it's so important that as we point fingers at other people, there are three fingers pointing back at us, right? And if you hold, my friend said, if you hold all five fingers out, then it looks like the Hail Hitler sign, right? And so we have to be careful in terms of who we point our fingers at, right? I think part of this is the whole Gandhi, that quote that we attribute to Gandhi about be the change you want to see in the world, the Michael Jackson's Man in the Mirror. I think this is an opportunity for all of us to be able to almost like step back and ask ourselves, where is our ignorance? Now, if there is ignorance, which I believe we all have, then can we take a moment to actually be okay with that? I don't know if you found this in your life, but people would come up to me all the time and ask me, like, where are you from? Now, granted, of course, maybe at times it became tiresome, but if I come from a point of assumed positive intent, and then they're just trying to make a connection with me, if they tell me they like orange chicken, right? Like if you have change, or they want whatever it might be. If I know that they're trying to do that, then I want to be able to extend some grace to them because they're trying to make an effort. Just like I've done that when it comes to people from different cultures that I'm not super familiar with.
Yeah, that's a great point. I was asked, what are you? You know, like that kind of, what are you?
Yes.
So yes, it absolutely is. It behooves us to, but I do think we need to put the moose on the table. That's my Canadian version of talking about the elephant in the room.
Yes.
About group differences and stereotypes. Yes. Nobody wants to talk about group differences because they're afraid to stereotype. And when you go to that extreme, then you get the, well, you know, we're all the same. There are no differences. So
yes, I agree.
Right now, to be able to put a stick in the ground and say, there are group differences. And one of the reasons I think that maybe we haven't been in mainstream or we haven't been the squeaky wheel is because it is against most Asian cultures to speak up and say, I don't like this.
Yes.
So in Japanese culture, when you say no, you don't say no, you say maybe. Because you don't want to insult the person speaking, say absolutely no. In Chinese and Japanese, there's a saying, the nail that stands up is hammered down.
Yes.
If you ask a Chinese carpenter, do you do good work? He will say, oh, no, just average. So you're not going to hire them. So this characteristic that we as Asians have, which is a group difference, which is not a stereotype, has now been extrapolated, though, into a stereotype so that when I'm out on a date, a Caucasian guy will inevitably say to me, I've always been attracted to Asian women. To which I will not as nicely as you say and give them the benefit of the doubt. If I stay at the table, I will say, number one, I will not cook for you. Number two, I will not clean for you. And number three, the only way I'm walking on your back is with high heels on.
Wow.
So that was in my.
There's something that I learned that it was beautiful. Someone said to me, the problem with racism is not that the fact that not the racism, the stereotypes. The reason stereotypes are not wrong, they're just incomplete. Stereotypes come from some sort of pattern, and our brain wants to make predictions. We want to be able to say something. So it's the fact that they're incomplete. Stereotypes are incomplete because we're all individuals. And the great point is just what you said about that whole date thing, right? If there's a stereotype that Asian women are more submissive and things like that, but then do they take the time to get to know you and to see your take, your strength in which and how you view the male and female roles?
Exactly. And that's why the melting pot doesn't work. Because we are all different. We either say we're all different and God knows how many terms there are that I have to learn, so I'm not going to piss you off and I'm not going to piss you off. And what is the Bible? Just give me the forking term so I don't piss you off, which is crazy chaos because we're all individuals. To say, no, I'm going to treat you all the same because we all have the same blood and we all are humankind. Those two extremes don't work. Melting pot, and mosaic. I see we have comments. My whole take is the stew, you're a carrot, right? I'm a carrot, or we're the rice maybe in this example. And then others are the potato, right? Another race is a potato, another is an onion, whatever the differences are. There's still differences, and we have every right to have our preferences and our differences because we're different. But then together we make this delicious gravy. That's our similarities. So if we can do that, then we can allow ourselves to have our differences as well as our similarities. And if I see people are watching, please put your say hi on the chat. Then we can do a shout out to you. And I see some hearts and some sad faces too. So tell me what those are for. But we're here with Shay. And I'm going to play something. His response to all of this has been to go to love. And I'm really glad that I thought I was hashtag positively opinionated. I think he just like took my whole thing over. So I'm going to play something that he put together as a result of this stuff that's going on. And we'll have him talk about it after I play it.
All right, so this is my hashtag, promote Asian love. My grandfather loved my grandmother so much. Absolutely. During the funeral service about a month ago, my grandfather sobbed.
Asian family moves in next door. So one Saturday, a couple days after they'd moved in, we had eaten early, put together a plate of fresh baked cookies to take over to welcome them to the neighborhood, which they've just met us and they're like, please stay for dinner. They were cooking and it smelled fabulous, but we'd eaten early, so we had to beg off. We hear our doorbell ringing, and it is one of the neighbors who has come over with a plate of fresh egg rolls and shrimp rolls and the most delicious fresh homemade food. They knew that we couldn't stay to dinner with them, but they wanted to make sure that we were well taken care of.
So I have an Asian friend named Cynthia, who I haven't seen for a long time, but we used to hang out together. And she introduced me to the buffets we'd sit for hours and barbecue and laugh and talk and barbecue and laugh and talk and eat. And
my family and I were in Paris, and we had just gotten there, and we were trying to get to the Rodin Museum to see the thinker. A number of people separately trying to, basically split, trying to get as many people as we can. And no one would help us. And then this wonderful Asian couple came up to us. They were also tourists, and they explained to us how to basically navigate both the bus and metro system. And
law enforcement officer and another several years as a criminal court victim advocate. And due to the nature of those jobs, my interactions weren't always positive. But when I think back, any and all of the interactions that I had with anyone of Asian descent stand out in my mind as some of the most positive interactions that I've had in my life, period. And I just...
So my wife, who's a Filipina, love her dearly, and she's got a wonderful family. Not only is it wonderful, it's huge. And all of them just have totally embraced me. So I have all these wonderful brothers and sisters, nieces and nephews, and they shower me with love.
I remember when I used to be working as a nurse and had Asian, elderly patient. Oh my God, it was so giving. I know Asian, but I see you. I know Asian, but I hear you. I know Asian, but I'm with you.
All right.
Oh. Thank you so much for showing that, Dr. Marissa.
You have a product you're passionate about, and now's the time to grow your online sales. Klaviyo can help. Klaviyo is the ultimate marketing platform for growing.
Obviously, I haven't used this function for very long. All right, so back to, that's beautiful. So we're ending racism not by fighting but promoting Asian love. And let me just say that I could feel some of the bristles that might be going up. So any of you who are saying, why do we even have to say, I know some Asians or Asian couple or an Asian person, they're people, being Asian is just a small part of who you are, and, you're making too big of a deal. And again, the psychological research, you cannot say that you don't notice someone's race. The first things that you notice are gender, race, and age. So please stop justifiable ignorant in saying that you don't see differences. We have to get to the point where we are okay with saying someone looks different and they have, as a part of their persona, a beautiful thing called heritage and race. And if we can get to that point, then we've got a chance. But if we're so, what do you mean you're calling me a racist? To the other, I'm not racist. I love Chinese food. Or I love, it's like you're not getting it. Please understand that when it comes to valuing diversity, you have to be careful about intent and impact. You can unintentionally piss someone off, right? And say, so do you always eat rice? Or you're looking a little yellow today, ha, 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 right? Or it was just a joke. It's just jaundice. What's the big deal about that? And making a joke about someone's ethnicity. The intent may be to be funny. The intent may be to get a ha-ha, but the impact is equally important. Our culture has been so forgiving of intent. Well, I didn't mean it to be an insult, so it's not an insult. But if you've got the Asian with the nail that's hammered down, that's not going to say, could you pronounce my name the way it's supposed to be? They won't say anything at all. And so for 20 years at work, your name, which is Jin, but is spelt with a T, right? You don't correct them. But what respect is shown by saying, how can I pronounce your name correctly? Or how would you like me to correct your name? Instead of saying, that's too difficult to pronounce, shorten it. So this whole, is your intent to be effective and to value diversity the same as your impact? Are you being valuing? Are you being respectful? How will you know unless the person says, I'd rather you not say it like that? How do you know? Instead of, well, I can't believe, are you calling me racist? To, okay, I didn't mean it that way, but help me, educate me. Then we'll get out of this justifiably ignorant. Thanks for letting me get on that soapbox.
Well, I think this goes back to what you just said. It's an opportunity. In my mind, it's a teaching moment. That's what it is. I was an educator for 21 years, and I see these things. On the first day of school, I remember I said, hi, my name is Mr. Sun. I was born in Korea, but I'm Chinese. And the first thing out of one of my students' mouth was ching chong, ching chong, ching chong. And I said, I am so glad that you did that in front of me instead of someone else who might be a part of an Asian neighborhood gang and beat you up. It's better that you do this in front of me because I'm a teacher, I have patience, and I'm here to help you. And I think this is where, if we see this as a teaching moment. So one of the reasons why I came up with the hashtag Asian Love was because I was thinking about what I taught my students about the Holocaust. It's very difficult for the human brain to see 10 million murdered. 6 million people died under Hitler, 6 million Jewish people. But I taught my students to look at one girl, a 13, 14, 15-year-old girl's diary, the diary of Anne Frank. Anne Frank becomes the face of the Holocaust. So my desire in terms of the whole hashtag promote Asian love was to be able to humanize and to be able to put a face on this group. So we all have seen all the footages of elderly people getting pushed down, but I wanted people to be able to see the Asian people and to see their grandfather, to see their grandmother. I thought that that'd be a great way for us to be able to see past just in my mind, it's almost like,
it's balance.
That's right. I'm trying to do that. And the reason why is because I believe the fact that the media has already shown us enough of all that. I mean, I had people coughing and saying things like coronavirus. I had kids who literally sneezed intentionally coughed and sneezed onto my computer at school. I would walk in the hallways and kids would say coronavirus. And I was a teacher, and yet they were doing this. Wow. I was across the street at a park, and this Hispanic man told me to go back to my country. So this is the reason why, for me, it's a chance for education. So the way that I believe that education can take place is through one story at a time, one sharing at a time. Because I loved what you said, Dr. Marissa. It's the fact that we do see, obviously we see the differences. You don't go to a Chinese restaurant and go like, oh my gosh, isn't this just regular food? No, we experience differences when we go out. So why, if we're eating food, listening to music, looking at a piece of art, so if we can see those other cultural pieces, why can I not also, being a artwork made by the creator, to be able to be, you can enjoy me that way as well, and I'm okay with that. So this is where I believe, and I agree, there is some pushback in terms of the hashtag promote Asian love. And I think even among Asians, because they don't always want to be seen, this goes back to the whole hammer thing, right?
Discomfort with, you do not air your dirty laundry. You do not air anything that brings blame and shame. That brings shame. Shame is this giant overhang in my Chinese culture. I don't know about in the Philippines.
Yes. No, I'm Chinese too. Yeah. No. I was born in Korea, but I'm Chinese.
So it's so strong. You just don't bring shame on the family. You do not. I mean, I'm not of value in my family because I am not shy, and I speak up, and I do this very public show, and I'm on TV. You know, like all the things that you should not. It's like, I'm stripping. I'm equated to a stripper bringing shame on the family because I've got a big mouth, and that's not okay. So I take that at risk, and I had a hard time. I had a hard time with not feeling self-shame every time I opened my mouth. But that went away like 4 years ago when I had someone on my show tell me I was a Leo in 5 planets and I couldn't help myself. I had to be this. So that all that shame fell away. All the shame fell away. So this is a message to Asians. This is a message to Asians to there's nothing to be ashamed of. And the BS, the belief systems that we grew up with that are not working for us, we don't have to embrace them. I just talk in Beijing, and the women in that audience listening to me talk about, you know, being shamed as a child by their mom, you know, well-meaning moms who were more mean than well, who told, you know, I was fat, ugly, and clumsy as a motivator to not be fat, ugly, and clumsy. So all of that shame, we don't have to bring that into now. If you're an Asian woman listening to this, if you're a young or a middle or whatever Asian woman listening to this who doesn't believe that they have a voice, that's wrong. You have a voice. You have a beautiful voice that is part of your unique self. And as Asian women, I think we have to begin to be comfortable with saying, you know, I'd prefer not. You know, that's actually not true. And it's okay. It's so okay. I
agree with you. I think this goes back to the fact that it's an issue of having authentic choice. Because I believe that happiness is a choice, but the choice has to be an authentic one. It has to be one that that sits right with you, not because society is saying that that's the definition of happiness, or your family, your parents, or X, Y, and Z things. So this takes you have to have a deep dive into your awareness about who you are at your core. What do you truly value? What do you truly want to say? This is where I think you and I are probably what is it? A different a mother. What does that say? You know, like a different mother from a.
We're,
you know what I'm talking about?
We're brothers and sisters from a different mother and father.
Yes, it's like the whole Mr. thing. And yeah, just a sister from a different Mr. I honestly think that the way you're speaking is one of the reasons why I sometimes don't always get along within my own family dynamic, is because of the fact that I'm very outspoken about what I believe. But I feel like I'm compelled to. Mm-hmm. I'm compelled to because I believe the fact that even with.
Are you a
what's
Leo?
that?
Are you a Leo?
No, I'm an Aquarius, actually. I'm on the last day of the Aquarius. But you know what's interesting? The interesting thing is the fact that even when people meet me, regardless if they're Asian or not, they'll say that I've never met an Asian like you. And you probably get the same thing as well. And I think there's, of course, diversity among Asians. And we're examples of that. And that's the reason why I think that fate brought us together.
Yeah, it's that whole... You know, the number one, people ask me, what is the skill? The number one skill, if I want to be good at valuing diversity, what is the number one skill? And I always say the same thing, be comfortable with gray. If you can be comfortable with gray, the gray area. If you can say, oh, there's no hard and fast rule here. If you can say, you know, it is situational, and maybe in this situation I will say this is my Asian friend, and in this other situation I won't say that. And even if I don't understand what the big deal about Oriental is, because that's the term that's been used forever. The fact that it bothers some people, I don't understand it. I will never understand it. But the fact that it bothers some people, I want to build a bridge. So if I want to respect your preferences, I'm going to not use that term. I don't have to understand everything that bothers everybody else in order to respect them. I can show the respect even if I don't understand it. But our culture as Americans is, we want to know why. We want to understand it. We got to figure it out. We got to it's got to make sense. Otherwise, it's not true. That's bullshitaki. It cannot make sense all the time. We can't understand it. All of this stuff that's going on, we don't understand it. But we don't need to understand it. We can still move forward. There's great things you can do. Go to change.org. I'm going to post it. I wanted to wait for after the show. There's a thing we got to put the lynching bill passed through the Senate. This is ridiculous. We're in 2021. So sign that petition. I signed the petition back in June. Someone put out that Asian American violence was not getting in the news. So I signed that petition. It got in the news even before Atlanta happened. So it was beginning to happen. So we can all do something. We have beautiful ways we can do, hashtag show Asian love. We can hashtag
promote Asian love.
I'm sorry.
Promote.
Not show. Oh boy, that's going.
It's okay. It's okay. Yeah.
But there's so much we can do in this. Yes, we can. I got called a gook 2 years ago. Believe it or not, before COVID. A woman drove by, rolled down her window, and started calling me a stupid forking gook, and yes, she was Caucasian. Yes, she was an older woman. Yes, she was driving a white truck. Now, my rule, my discipline is to take a breath, allow myself to feel pissed off, right? And vent. And then what can I do? What in this particular instance, what am I being asked to develop because of this? So if you're Asian right now, what, because of all of this violence, am I being asked to develop, grow, and hone to help move us to a less angry, violent, discriminating, racist place? How do I, what do I need to do? So as long as we don't stay in that stuck, I hate you, I hate everybody, I hate, certain colors more than others, and this applies to all of us, the affected and the unaffected, right?
I agree with you. I agree. One thing that really helps me is the F word, fascinating. I find that word has helped me so much. So in other words, let's say I have a bag of oranges and the bag, there's a crack and all the oranges spill across the parking lot. I just say, wow, that's fascinating. So that's what I actually did when I was, when I was told to go back to my country by it was a Hispanic gentleman. And actually, it was on a date. It was funny, actually. But he said this, and I literally just paused for a minute and just thought to myself, this is fascinating. Because when you get to a place of curiosity, you don't have judgment. And so what you do is when you go to a fascinating place, it makes it so that you're not as emotionally charged. Now, of course, afterwards, I did process it because I wasn't sure. This guy was a lot bigger than me. I wasn't sure if he was going to do something to my date at the moment. But what I did was I allowed myself in the moment to be able to address this issue. And he just walked off eventually. And it was a great opportunity to have my date, who happened to be Hispanic at the time, to be able to see me respond to this situation without reacting it too emotionally, right? But I think that's the muscle that you develop, the curiosity muscle, the non-judgment curiosity muscle. But I think this is where, if this is happening in real time when it comes to like an elderly person, there's something that you should do. So this is the reason why hashtag Stop Asian Hate it's not just the fact that we don't want the elderly people to be pushed and things like that. If we see that they're struggling across the street, let's do what we can to help, right? So this is about what we can be doing, not just about what we don't want to see. Let's create that. That's one of the reasons why, even in our brain, our subconscious cannot. If I say, Dr. Marissa, don't think of a pink elephant. Whatever you do, if pink elephant, don't think about the long pink trunk. You can't do that. You have to first picture it and then draw an international no sign through it. That's the reason why when you hear the word stop Asian hate, your brain actually hears Asian hate. So that's one of the reasons why I want to promote Asian love. And how has Asian people loved you in your life? And where have you experienced you maybe offering a helping hand to an Asian as well? Is to promote this environment of what we want to create in this world. What do we want to visualize in this world? And not just about what we don't want to see in this world.
Yeah, beautiful. So how do people find you? And
yes, you can find me at www.shaysun.com. So Shay, sun, like the big ball of fire in the sky. And and then I'm also on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, and also LinkedIn.
And you want like little video clips or little stories and the hashtag.
Yes, please.
Promote.
Yeah, do the hashtag promote Asian love. And then I would love to be able to just make sure that you put the setting on public so that we can all share it and all enjoy all of these videos as well. I would think that it would be a beautiful thing, as just like you and I met through our Facebook feed, right? I would love to be able to just randomly see all of these hashtag promote Asian love. I know that some people are maybe a little camera shy, but even if they were to write up a little anecdote about this, I believe the fact that if we just saw more of this in our social media, see these more in our tweets, I believe that all of us will be able to pivot this conversation.
Yeah. I just maybe I'm not as positive as I thought I was. You definitely are more positive than I am, because I unfortunately, I think there's another level of conversation that has to happen. And as an Asian woman, I saw, Wendy Kim's post, because this is not just about racism. It's also the stereotyping of Asian women. And when you say Asian love, it goes to that, you could go to that happy ending place, right? Or the movie, the line in the movie that I'm not going to repeat. And so we still have some work to do around that, is all I'm saying, is that I love the idea.
Yes.
But it's the idea, but when the trigger is Asian love, because it's such a loaded thing. That's why the term and what we use in terms when we say, up till 1974, when there was a robbery, they would say the black man, the Hispanic woman. They wouldn't say a white male. They would just say male. So there was so much loadedism. So when people say, why can't you just say the guy? Why do you have to say, why can't you say the black male? And my response is, when black just becomes black, then we can say that. When Asian just becomes Asian, we can say that. But when you say black, the term itself is loaded, right? It's loaded and coded. Same with Asian right now. It's loaded. So as we maneuver through this, I'm hoping there's going to be some healing around this whole Asian love stereotype, the massage parlor, all of that stuff.
Yes, no, I agree with you. And I think that's a really, really good point. So this all goes back to how language is used. As an English teacher, it's all about usage, right? So it's all about the framing of those words and how we see it. If people know the context of it is instead of hating, how can we love? Maybe the word could have been caring or some other word. But a lot of times when I have conversations with people, really the two energies in this world of love and fear. And I believe that fear is what causes that anger to take place. And so then how can we combat that, right? Martin Luther King says, darkness cannot fight out darkness, only light can. Hate cannot fight out hate, only love can, right? So this is the same thing.
Yeah, beautiful, beautiful. Marianne Williamson's been on my show twice.
Oh, has she really? Oh, nice.
Yeah.
Nice. Very cool.
Thank you so much. ShaySun.com. Hashtag promote Asian love. You heard it here today on Take My Advice. I'm not using it. Get happy, get balanced with Dr. Marissa. I'm going to close out today with my Fox 5. See, not everything bad is Fox. Fox did a highlight. I was the final highlight of the Women's History Month. So I thought I would close out. It's the story of my past being Chinese. And I'll close out with that. But thank you so much, Shay, for coming on.
Thank you so much, Dr. Marissa.
I wish you the very, very best. I'm sure we'll continue to be in touch, and best in everything.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you.
Tonight we're wrapping up Women's History Month with a story about a woman whose mission is to spread happiness. Dr. Marissa Pei is a survivor of childhood trauma and a reformed tiger mom. She's an accomplished woman who has endured hardship, but she says she's also found a path to happiness.
I'm Dr. Marissa, and I'm making history in spreading happiness. I was born in a little town, a little German town in Canada. My parents came from China, and they wanted me to blend in as much as possible. So I was told, don't speak Chinese. So I learned actually to lie about who I was. People would say, are you Hawaiian? And I'd say, yes, because Chinese was just not a good thing to be. I had a tiger mom, and in an effort to motivate me, she would say that I was fat, that I was ugly, and that I was clumsy. To prove she was wrong, I started modeling, and I dropped 40 pounds in like less than a year, and unhealthy. I was constantly trying to prove that voice wrong. And this is a show about hope and how to be happy. So that began my own journey to shift from blaming to, wait a minute, there is a role in pain in life. And what I've realized is pain in life chisels us into more and more good, more and more expansion, and more beauty. Yes, now I am known as the Asian Oprah. And the first time someone called me that, I went, oh, whoa, way too big shoes to step into. One of my teachers is Michael Bernard Beckwith, and he's a very good friend of Oprah's, introduced me to Oprah as, this is the Asian Oprah. And I'm like, and she looked at me, and she looked down, she looked at me, smiled, and said, nice pants.
Dr. Marissa, also known as the Asian Oprah, reporting live.
When I say this is Dr. Marissa reporting, also known as the Asian Oprah, it just immediately sets people at ease. They laugh. It's such an honor. Many of us say, I am my own worst critic. Nobody's harder on me than I am. And my response to that is, stop it. Why are you doing that to yourself? You have to be your biggest fan, because if you can't at the end of the day say, I did a good job, who is? We don't have to constantly be angry at the things that are wrong. Why don't we choose to be happy about things that are right? We have the choice. That's our muscle. And life is so amazing if we can see it.